Hello there, freaks and geeks. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Up Your Geek Spotlight. I'm your host, Lou Lamar Booker, and on today's show, we're going to be speaking to author and journalist Emily Zemler, writer of Disney Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas Beyond Halloween Town, the story, the characters, and legacy. Featuring an original foreword by Tim Burton, the story celebrates the film and culture that has grown around it over the last 30 years with exclusive and original interviews from cast, crew, and artists. Delve into the magic of Halloween and Christmas and the story told through unlikely heroes that started 30 years ago. This beautifully designed coffee table book is sure to captivate die-hard and casual fans alike. Hear what Emily Zemler had to say. Hi guys, welcome to Up Your Geek Spotlight. I'm here with Emily Zemler, the author of Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas Beyond Halloween Town.
Quite a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
A lot of requirements.
So Emily, a little bit about you to the audience here. Emily is a writer and journalist based in London. You're a frequent contributor to the LA Times and Rolling Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Correct.
You've worked and co-authored A Sick Life with TLC's Tian T-Boz Watkins.
Yes,
and
the real highlight of my career.
And you're the author of The Making of Aladdin and Disney Princess Beyond the Tiara.
Yeah, somehow I found this niche writing about Disney properties, which is really fun.
Yeah, being a Disney fan, these were great. And I actually, when I got this and was reading about that, I said, I wanted to check these other ones out. So they're on the way also.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
So this new book dives into the history of Nightmare Before Christmas, this film that has transcended generations, has this lasting legacy since its release in 93. In fact, I think the 30th anniversary is this coming October the 9th. I believe it released in 1993. Yeah, it was a sleeper. It didn't come out to much fanfare, but then it just became this like global phenomenon over the years. Your book goes into the history of this film since its release. And can you tell us, were you a fan of Tim Burton and or the film at the time of its release?
I was a big Tim Burton fan. I loved all of his films. I read that book, Burton on Burton, many times, had it on my bookshelf. And then that book came in handy for researching this book. I don't remember seeing The Nightmare Before Christmas in theaters. I don't think that I did. I think I probably rented it from our local Blockbuster, but I was a big fan of the film and eventually owned it. And I think it's one of those movies that if you saw it when you were young, it just kind of remains there in the background for you for your whole life. It's always going to kind of be there for you.
It is. It's one of those stories that kind of, one, grew on people, but two, people that did get a hold of it, it just was like, wow, where was this? And I remember seeing it. I did not see it in the theaters. I think I saw it when it was released on video, but I loved it instantly. So what did you enjoy most about writing Beyond Halloween Town?
You might think that the writing part is the most fun, but I actually think the researching part is the most fun. The most fun thing is when you start rewatching movies. So obviously the first thing I did was rewatch The Nightmare Before Christmas, and then anything else that had been released, like there was a behind the scenes like props Netflix show. I can't remember the name of that show. I actually don't think it's on Netflix anymore, but that was really cool. And I was watching stuff on YouTube and just finding everything I could. And then I started getting all the books that were available. I live in London, so the BFI has a library here that's full of film books, which is amazing. It's really helpful. And then the process goes to interviewing. So I don't know if it's apparent from reading the book, but I interviewed dozens of people for this book. And you kind of start you kind of go work your way through all the people in the film. And I think the majority of people involved in the film were interviewed for the book.
Yeah.
And you kind of work your way outward. Like I was looking, my algorithm completely changed on Facebook and Instagram because I was looking for cosplayers and I was looking for people with
Yeah.
nightmare things. I was in like Facebook groups being like, who's a cosplayer? Who wants to talk to me? And that was really, really fun. It was really fun to learn kind of all these behind the scenes details, like things you never knew. Like I really enjoyed talking to Dean Taylor, who was the production designer on the film, and he lives in Australia. So we had a
Yes.
big scheduling scenario. But he was explaining how you think of the color palette as being really black and orange, but there are actually little bits of green in
Yeah.
Halloween Town, and those are coming out of the sewers. And I had never noticed. I mean, you notice that the color's there, but you don't think of why. Why is there green? And it's
Yeah.
because whatever is underneath Halloween Town is glowing green.
Yeah.
And I love that detail. It's just such a cool little nugget, and everybody was so gracious and happy to talk. And there were two people that have a Nightmare Before Christmas podcast, and they like hooked me up with every other crew member and were sending in photos. And yeah, it was really a fun process.
Um, it sounds amazing. I'm a researcher myself, and I like to dig in and I go down these rabbit holes. And that's like the fun of finding out information and being able to detail things. So that's why I really love the reading this. I immediately started reading it as soon as I was reading the PDF, but then when this came, I was like, oh yes. And but I really love the story. It is apparent, the interviews. You can see them. There's a lot of quotes in there from that. There's a documentary called The Films That Made Us
Mhm.
on Netflix, and Nightmare Before Christmas is one of the films that they talk about, and how it really just talks about all these different films and how difficult it was to get them to screen and get them to be put out in theaters, but then how they just kind of blew up over time. And that was one of the stories. And I saw the building of all the stop motion characters, and you love the art behind everything because it has these details that the artists put in there because that's what they love to, that's their work. But when the fans like notice things and you're wondering, and it sends you into this question mode, like, why is this there? Why is that there? The artist really has the purpose of it. And it's, and when you find out about it. So I figured that it might have been the same thing for you when you found out that, like, about the glowing underneath the Halloween Town. So tell me about your relationship with this story and what motivated you to write this book.
So I had written Disney Princess Beyond the Tiara, which was an idea that came from the publisher, Epic Inc. And it was, someone had just thought, wouldn't it be great if there was a story that looked at the cultural legacy and history of the Disney princess and went in depth? And then that went really, really well. And so the idea was, well, could we continue the Beyond series and do it on something else? Is there another Disney property or Disney group of characters? And since the film was going to celebrate its 30th anniversary this year, the idea was maybe we could look at The Nightmare Before Christmas, because it was this tiny little movie, but it spawned so much. And so that was sort of the starting point, was that we were just going to figure out the cultural legacy. And then it came down to outlining it, what are the trends. And I think you can see in the book that the most important things sort of become the merchandising of the film, the music, and the way it spawned all of these cover songs and tribute songs, and then how the fans have responded to it and what they have done with this tiny little film and then made their own, which is something that Tim Burton really loves. He's really happy that they have taken it and made it their own. And he supports that both with this film in particular, but all of his work.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things is this was like Tim's baby, like his brainchild, and he was trying to get this character brought to life, and it was based on this little short story he created. And I remember about him talking about, which you can read in a book too, about like drawing this character on napkins. And but a lot of people don't realize that the film wasn't directed by Tim. It was actually directed by Henry Selick. I think that a lot of that got lost in translation over the years because people just are associating Tim Burton with this film. One of the things I wanted to ask you is about when this film did catch audiences, seemed to hang on for the foreseeable future of anything that came from this film as it grew. Like, where do you think the love and admiration comes from, for these characters in this story and how it played out into the success of The Nightmare Before Christmas over the years?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. And it's a question that I asked a lot of people in doing the research for the book. And everybody kind of has a slightly different answer. But there are all these things that come together to create what has become a cultural phenomenon. And I think it starts with the story, which is a story of a misfit who doesn't feel like he fits in. He's looking for his place. And that resonates with a lot of people. We love the story about a misfit who's looking for where he belongs in society. And then seeing him get to find it is obviously really relatable and gives the audience something to connect to. And I think people could connect to Jack in that way, but they could also connect to Sally. They could connect to any of the characters. And from there, then I think one of the things that really struck people was how tactile the film is. We don't see a lot of stop motion like this anymore. We're pretty focused on computer generated animation.
Yeah.
But this is, you can feel it. You could touch it. You could reach into the screen. And I think that really resonated with people. It made it feel real. It made it feel like you were really immersed in this world that you'd never seen before. And you've never seen something that looks like that before. It felt original. I think that is really key to when something strikes people, especially now that we're surrounded by so much IP.
Yeah.
You know, it's not common now to have a film like this that felt like something you'd never seen. And then I think the songs really connected with people. It was something memorable. Everybody likes a musical.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you always have something to sing. And then one of the things that really connected over the years was that it became a tradition, and that helps something to have growth and longevity when it can be part of your annual celebration, either of Halloween or Christmas. And now obviously it's celebrated through many holidays, Valentine's Day. Apparently there's a contingent that has Thanksgiving around the film. That one I'm still not totally sure on, but I think, you know, it's something we come back to each year, and then it's generational. So if you've come back to it, then your children will come back to it. And that helps something to endure.
It is one of those things that, again, it's kind of bled into every culture and every tradition, really. It's not just used for Halloween. You see the Valentine's Day cards, the Christmas cards. It's everywhere. And so one of the debates I see from fans is this a Halloween film or is it a Christmas film, right? And any book you write about the subject and talk about how it's become this all-around holiday, which is what you were just mentioning. So I agree. So talk to me about what you think about this story has garnered this, or why you think this story has garnered this type of attention year round, and where or how do you think it started?
So personally, I feel this is a Halloween movie. I know that's not in the book, but I feel that it's a Halloween movie because of the iconography and Halloween Town. However, I think it's totally valid to celebrate it however you want. The celebration of a year-round holiday, that actually does originate from Disney merchandising. They have made it a goal to promote this not just twice a year, to make it feel like something that you could enjoy at any time of the year. And you can see that in the type of merchandise that they release. In particular, with the Hot Topic merchandise, some of the really interesting things are the beach merchandise. You can get a Jack surfing t-shirt. You can get a beach towel. You can get a cooler to put your beers in. You can get, you know, a lot of like home decor that you might use in the summer for a picnic, the picnic baskets. I think that has been kind of a strategy that has helped people think of the movie year round. There's also the love story component that makes it a Valentine's movie. You can get it on a card. It has become a wedding and engagement celebration kind of theme. I still struggle with the Thanksgiving. I'm just going to be so honest. I don't know how you make a Thanksgiving dinner, but someone can prove me wrong about that one. I don't know. But I think the idea is when you're constantly releasing new toys or clothing or memorabilia, you can't just do that twice a year. It gets kind of boring and it's samey. So what else could they be releasing? And that's been something they've done. They've also tried to do more events outside of those two holidays. Although, as fans of the parks know, Halloween and the Nightmare Before Christmas are very entangled. If you go to
Yeah.
Disneyland, it's very important that they're present
Yeah.
together. But yeah, I think it's great that it's a year-round holiday, because just because something is about Halloween or Christmas or set during that time doesn't mean it doesn't resonate with you anytime.
Right. Um, I love that they do that. One, it's genius marketing. You market it to all different types of audiences and people who just are paying attention at any given time during the year. Oh man, this, wow, they have, and when you see it, you get really, I guess they get really happy. You walk into a store and you see for Valentine's Day, you might see an anniversary card that has like Jack and Sally on it. It's like everywhere. It's infectious. I've seen wedding cards. It's everywhere, and I think that is the genius of the marketing, and also the fans really just kind of love this. And you also have people making, I have a Jack Skellington trash can right now, and it's, it's everywhere. Why do you think that fans, even casual fans, kind of resonate with the characters in this story? Like what characters were your favorite of this film?
I think when you're a young preteen and teenage girl, that Sally is your favorite. She's a little bit disaffected. She's pretty moody.
Yeah.
That really relates to a lot of teenage girls. She's still pretty fashionable. I mean,
Yeah.
as you can read in the book, she evolved a lot visually. She wasn't always going to be this kind of waif matchstick girl looking character, but I love how she looks, and she's like pretty chic. So she
Yeah.
was my first connection to the film. But I think all of the characters are so much fun, and you haven't really seen them, because even if you see, like a vampire, it's not like a vampire you've seen before. So everything feels really
Right.
original, which is really fun. And I think, like what I was saying before about Jack, he feels like this kind of everyman misfit who is on a quest. And that's a very traditional story that goes through storytelling for centuries, that we follow someone on their quest to find themselves. And that allows us to potentially find ourselves, which is something that I think a lot of people are looking for in a film. You want to go on a journey, you want to come to some kind of
Right.
resolution. If you were going to ask me now, though, I think Zero is my favorite because he's the cutest. That's so cute. I would watch a whole movie just about Zero floating around. And that was practical effects, which is absolutely mind blowing. That's not CGI.
Yeah.
That really
Yeah.
made that happen.
I tell you what, fans love practical effects. I'm still amazed by seeing these behind the scenes things with Tim Burton and how they put this film together. Why do you think fans love the stop motion and practical effects so much?
I think it boils down to it's cool. It's you can't if you're unless you work in computers or you're an animation specialist, you probably can't imagine what someone does in front of a computer that allows you to then see it on screen. But
Right.
if someone shows you how they have created an armature, and then they've created an outfit, and they've created removable heads, and then they have to slightly move that armature every second to
Yeah.
create this scene, that is so cool. That's like somebody is making something, and it feels original, it feels special, it feels artistic.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is really interesting, especially today. I mean, even if you think about like the spiral hill, that is a puppet, that's an armature, because they
Yeah.
needed it to move. That's not just a set that they built. That thing actually worked. And it was enormous. Like, they were immersed in this space with this puppet hill. And that, when you actually stop to think about like what was the skill and the level of craft that went into that, it's very impressive. And all of the people that worked on this movie, a lot of them had actually come from, I think, Gumby. There were a lot of people that came from making
Yeah.
Gumby, and
Yeah.
then they've gone on to make all kinds of things. If you go on IMDb and you click through this crew, like, they're still making things. A couple of them are on, I can't remember the name of the, is it called The Inventor, that's coming out this month?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a couple people that worked on that. I mean, there's and obviously Henry Selick is still making films.
Yeah.
Very impressive thing to be able to do. And as a fan, I think you're just like really wowed by it.
Yeah, that's it's beautiful. And for me, that's what it is. Once I saw how these things were put together, and there's like this show that came out a couple of years ago that was doing stop motion, and they show you how they put each character, that the character has to walk down the street and say hi and wave and everything like that. That's them moving every frame, and it's amazing to me that, you know, people do that. So the work that they put in, we as fans love to appreciate it. So I think that is great. This film kind of was like the little film that could over the years. By a certain time, now Disney like releases it every so often.
Mhm.
People watch it every year. Do you think the response from people, like fans getting into this, changed the way that kind of like the producers and people look at how they're going to market films?
I don't know if this film in particular would have changed the whole state of the industry, but I think that this film was a really good example of how something that didn't have a massive audience when it came out could grow. You know, they did like the 3D re-release, and that was really smart. That got a new audience. It allowed them to take it to festivals and bring it into theaters again, and they can re-release this around the holidays. And I think it's just a good example of how something doesn't have to be an instant success to be an eventual success.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that that is something that people look at and think, well, that's amazing that it's created its whole culture. Like, what can we do? What can we release in terms of merchandise? How can we engage with the fans on social media in a way that creates something similar?
I think now in today's time, we have that difference where people kind of give things a bit of a more of a chance now. Like when they come out with things, it's like, you know what, this might grow. And I think that's probably the reason behind some of the things being pushed to series, where they're, instead of doing a feature film for things, because you can get more of a story out and it can develop over time. And I think that that's what kind of goes into that. And they're like, you know what, this might not be an instant hit, but fans will grow to love these characters. When you put something into a TV show and a person invests their time into watching and growing with these characters, the fan base grows. I think that people have, I think they've come to understand that, and that's kind of why now all these things are going on streamers and TV shows, and there's a lot more of that, and coinciding with filmmaking. What is it that you think audiences, or why do you think it took audiences so long to kind of warm to this film and that explosion it had? Do you think that audiences, and, you know, flipping from like producers and movie filmmakers, do you think this in the vein of people giving things more of a chance when they go to see it, or when they see something coming out and it might not look interesting? Do you think that's like changed the mind of the film goer?
I'm not sure if it's changed the mind of the film goer or not. I think when this came out, and that is something also I think everybody kind of is trying to figure out, you know, why didn't this get a huge response when it was released? You know, one of the reasons was I just don't think there was a total clear idea of what it was. Was it a Halloween movie? Was it a Christmas movie? Was it a children's movie? Was it an adult movie? Was it a musical? Was it, you know, what was it? And that impacted the marketing, and I don't think they totally knew what to do. They just weren't sure who to send it to, and now they obviously know the answer to that. I don't know if I think we can maybe draw conclusions about how studios were marketing things 30 years ago and really know what their strategies are today. I personally wouldn't want to have to be someone that marketed movies. Sounds like a very hard and thankless job. But yeah, I think this was just a very tricky movie because it was so many different things all at once, and we hadn't seen anything like it.
Yeah.
And it confounded people a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. That was my thought process too, and I don't know if you would have the same type of line of thinking. But that I think that people just they didn't know what it was.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not sure how we should market this to people. So, but I think the best thing about it is that this was released, and now we have this, and we have this book,
Yeah.
and we have things like this to like tell us these stories. And so I think that's a great part of history. Okay, so a little bit about you here. So what's been the toughest criticism that you've received as an author? And what has been the best compliment?
Yeah, that's such a tricky one. I try not to read too many of the reviews on Amazon. Luckily, the Disney Princess book was very well reviewed, and I'm very happy. And the only criticisms I've seen have been very nitpicky, like this didn't come wrapped in plastic. I wish it came wrapped in plastic, 4 stars. So you're like, well, I don't think I shipped it, so nothing I can do to help you there.
Yeah.
Glad you took that out on my writing. But yeah, I mean, I did have someone recently tell me they would never read a book about the Disney princesses because they don't believe in them. And
Oh,
I felt like that was a weird way to knock something down, because how do you know what's in the book? And maybe I'm addressing some of your concerns.
yeah.
So yeah, that's it. Sometimes you just get people who are a little bit ornery about the subject matter, but I try not to get too deep into like, I hated this from people. In terms of biggest compliment, I mean, I've gotten a lot of really nice feedback. I think the best thing you can hear is when someone just feels like they enjoyed it. Like that,
Yeah.
this is months of my life that goes into one book. And if it makes someone have a nice hour reading and looking at pictures, then I've done my job. I think that's all I can really ask for, that you liked it.
I liked it, so I'll tell you that. I really did. I did write a review, so you guys can check that out.
I saw your review because it was so nice.
So yeah, so you guys can check that out on upyourgeek.com. So do you have any odd writing habits?
I don't. I'm not a procrastinator. I just buckle down and do the work. I look really,
Awesome.
really, just really not. I wish I could give you something. My worst habit is like I look at Twitter sometimes while I'm writing and to get distracted, but I don't think that's uncommon. But yeah, I someone that just like writes every day and sit down and I just treat it like a job.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, be some motivation for some folks too. So could you share some advice for aspiring authors? What advice would you give your younger self as well?
Yeah, I think I actually get a lot of people who reach out to me who want to be either book authors or journalists, and I pretty frequently will jump on a Zoom with them to give them advice. And I think the best thing I can say is that it does not matter how flashy you are. You're not trying to like be the cool kid author. I just don't think that's very effective. You want to put your head down and do the work with humility. You want to deliver clean and consistent copy. You want to do really good research. You want to be someone that interviewees want to talk to, that you're easygoing, that you're flexible. Because I think being a good writer comes with practice, and that is something you can learn.
Yeah.
But the real skills that people are looking for is they don't want to have to spend hours editing you. They don't want to have to chase you for your deadlines. So it's just really about doing the job well. And I would tell my younger self that, although, as I said, I'm not a procrastinator and I've always been a bit of an overachiever. So I think she would probably be like, yeah, do your job well.
Was young Emily as ambitious as
Yeah,
current Emily?
the reason I was so obsessed with Tim Burton is because I wanted to be a filmmaker. That was my childhood goal, which has not really come to fruition. I kind of went in a different direction, but I think there are definitely parallels to getting a lot of information and building a book out of it in the same way you would take a lot of elements and build a film.
Yeah.
And I enjoy writing about film. So I think it has translated into my
career. Worked out well.
For sure.
Can you describe The Nightmare Before Christmas Beyond Halloween Town in 10 words or less for people who are just learning about it?
The Nightmare Before Christmas Beyond Halloween Town. Well, the title uses up half of the words. So that's all tricky. But the book is a cultural history of Tim Burton's seminal film, looking at the different elements of how it's endured in our culture. And I'm not good at that. I'm not good at that. I should have prepared for this one. Let me try it again. Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas is a cultural history of a fan favorite film. How's that many words?
You got it. We'll give you The Nightmare Before Christmas Beyond Halloween Town for free, right?
Okay, go great. Like I'm playing Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah. Being a writer and then writing so many words and so many pages, I guess it'd be hard to come up with 10 words, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would like or that you'd like people who read your book to take away from it?
I think everyone will take away what resonates for them, especially in a book like this that's so comprehensive and has so many different elements. But again, it's really just about enjoyment. Like you don't have to read, this is a coffee table book for a reason. You don't have to read the whole thing at once. You don't need to sit down and read it like a chapter book. You can flip through, look at the pictures. It's why we put in different kind of sidebars. You can take it in little bits and it's always there for you to enjoy. And if there's one part you like, take that. If you're not interested in one part, don't read it. I think you should just take it for whatever you need from it.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you guys again read the review, I had the opportunity to read it. I read it like all the way through, so so I'm kind of sad, but I'm going to read it again so I can, when I want to pick me up. So it's a really great book, really great deep dive. Emily Zemler, the author of Disney Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas Beyond Halloween Town, the story, the characters, and the legacy. This book was released on August 22nd, and it is available anywhere you get your books. Hello there, freaks and geeks. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Up Your Geek Spotlight. I hope you enjoyed this interview. Please hit that like and subscribe button and grab that notification bell so you don't miss videos like this in the future. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. Disney Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas Beyond Halloween Town, the story, the characters, and legacy by Emily Zemler is out now wherever books are sold. If you want to hear my thoughts on a book, visit upyourgeek.com and check out my latest review.